Well, hello, my little space puppies. This is Sahara, and have a little makeup for the video I put out yesterday because of tripod and equipment issues. I hope it gets better. And as I've explained to you before, I was in an accident a couple years ago, and my voice is affected. However, it's actually made me more in tune. Before we continue, I have something to lighten up your journey along the path. Once a wise man was asked the meaning of life. The wise man said, "Life itself has no meaning. Life is an opportunity to create meaning." I have a few things to repeat from yesterday's video because I was having equipment problems and I might not have gotten everything into the Miracle Minute. So some of these will be a repeat, some of them are new. And I'm going to do a special YouTube on the space stations that we're going to have in the future, and it's kind of interesting. So that it's too long to put on in a Miracle Minute. So, issue number 1. Somehow Trump backers have been fixing the polls. Now that's almost impossible, but I got that in a dream flash, and you've got to think Putin is one of his backers. How sickening, as crazy as that can be, and Putin and Russia could fix the polls. So they're doing something to fix that's what I mean, the approval ratings. I meant that Trump backers have been fixing the approval ratings. Now, so I don't know how that can be because there's different pollsters out there from all different kinds of groups, but somehow it's getting fixed. It's changing. I mean, his approval rating should be about -10. In the next class, increasing population growth is behind the alt-right movements. It might look like a lot like racism and all kinds of crazy things, prejudice, but people are wanting to build walls and barriers, not just with our silly wall, but in other places because of the population growth. There's some places right on the tip of Africa that's just insane. Our population is growing. Nobody wants to deal with it. It just brings fear and violence. So we become like rats in a cage getting overcrowded. And you know what rats do when they're overcrowded? They kill each other. Lemmings will run into the sea. We have wars and genocide. It's, if you make every new little baby a precious gift, there's not going to be anybody wanting to kill large groups of people. It's bad. War and famine is dead population growth. So that is behind this fear. We're living on a fear planet. Now, speaking of the planets, Mercury has been retrograde and will go direct, I think, March the 26th. Come over to Psychic Predictions for the World on Facebook so you can look at some of the ways to best utilize Mercury retrograde. However, when big announcements come out during Mercury retrograde, people change their minds. So Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats have changed their mind about pursuing impeachment. They made that announcement during Mercury retrograde. Also, Beto O'Rourke entered the race, and he may change his mind too, because they both made big decisions while Mercury was retrograde. As well, the Pentagon has stopped the red button that Trump pushed in one of his rages. They have orders to do so. There's many top generals who realize that there's a madman driving the train and it looks like the wheels are going to come off. But in my psychic radar, I picked up that Trump indeed has pressed that button. Um, and once, I didn't know whether to put that on a YouTube, but I listened to a general from the Pentagon, and he said something that, under his breath, somebody said, well, it's kind of scary, blah, blah, he could push the red button. And the general said, under his breath, we've already stopped one. And in a room full of reporters, with a million people watching you, I can't believe nobody picked that up. But I had picked it up previously, so that might have made my ears pick up a little bit. Now, Trump's base has been a mystery to rational people. And what's going to happen is they're going to kind of disappear quietly. The NRA, all of a sudden, being this big force for money, they got money from the Russians, and they dumped it into campaigns, which bolstered gun sales. So that's very sick right there. How many people have died because of that? You know, and but recently, the NRA has stated that they're about to go out of business. The reason is they don't want to say why, but their membership has just dropped off. Like 25% of the people are sending in their renewing their membership in the NRA, and they're very quiet about it. They're not announcing it. They're just going away quietly. His base will do the same thing. They're just going to quietly go away. Trump is hoping for violence with bikers and oh God knows who else. He mentioned some of his favored people that are loyal to him, and I love bikers, by the way. Bikers are usually too smart to fall for that kind of crap. So anyhow, the base is going. Trump has said my base will rally behind me, and the answer is no, not particularly. Now, psychics have been saying for a long time that a mystery woman was going to take Trump down. I know who that is. It is Barbara Underwood. She's the DA of New York, the whole state, and she is just amazing. You know, if we had more brain power like that in the legal field, and she is gunning for Trump, he won't have a chance in the state of New York, and neither will Manafort. In the last video, I mentioned that Manafort would get a little break in his next trial. It was going to be softened up a little bit. It won't happen with Miss Underwood when he faces charges in New York. And that is true for Trump too. Which brings us to Kushner. Kushner sold top secrets to the Saudis, compromising our safety. I mean, it's very scary to think of the Saudis and Russians having top secret information. However, and he got lots of money to save his little butt from his bad investments. So, with that in mind, still things are heating up at the White House. The White House is starting to look like a Jerry Springer show. And I think that Kushner is a 50%, maybe 60% chance that Kushner is going to take it on the lam. And he won't be going to his kissing cousins in Saudi Arabia. He's going to be going someplace like a Greek island, the south of France. Italy comes to mind. There's some nice islands there. He's going to get lost, and he's got the money to do it. He got it from the Saudis. And he doesn't want to face Barbara Underwood. Miss Underwood is the epitome of walk softly but speak softly but carry a big stick. And she does, and she will. And Jane Sanders did pop forth in one of my YouTubes and in one of my dream flashes. So she's going to be coming to the fore of just a little. She's going to show up a little bit more than she has. She's usually kind of behind the scenes. And if you ask me, Jane Sanders would be refreshing first lady. She follows the Grateful Dead. She's a deadhead. She's down to earth, and I think she would be a little better than porn stars and pinup models. We have a first lady that was a pinup model for nudie magazines. Then we had porn stars and bunnies, Playboy bunnies, romping around the White House, and then Trump goes down to Alabama and signs Bibles and boobs. So, believe me, that Jane Sanders would be refreshing. I can't even imagine a real person, not these fake people, because they all have boob jobs, and it's like I said, the White House is like a Jerry Springer show. Now, let's move on to my girl, Stacey Abrams, down in Georgia. And we all know that Stacey won the governorship of Florida. And unfortunately, she's kind of smart, and she has been proving over and over, winning battle after battle, that she indeed should be governor. But Kemp keeps throwing big roadblocks in the way. As long as we have a lot of Republicans in power, you can expect voter repression and everything else. Here's a big story. Florida has a big bullseye on it, in the middle of it, because it's going to be in the middle of Hurricane Alley, and fails like a seawall fails, and pumps in Miami they're not going to stand up to the fury of some of these monster hurricanes. They're going to be in the Gulf, and they're going to be in Miami, and the East Coast, lower East Coast, is going to blast the whole area away. And something sad, more sadness in Florida, because they keep electing crooks, and the Gulf is starting to turn into a cesspool. It's going to be the Dead Sea. There's some of Bush's family wells, oil wells underground, aren't capped. They've had some accidents underwater, and this stuff's been spewing out for 15 years. The poor Gulf can only last through so much, and Mother Nature is going to punish the whole Gulf section, and we're talking Louisiana and Texas and the Panhandle of Florida. I think Mexico should sue us, because we've ruined something beautiful for them too in the whole planet. So now the powers to be in Florida, because they keep electing crooked people, have okayed drilling in the Everglades, thus wrecking the delicate chloral base that Florida is built upon. It's a very porous ground covering in the south of Florida, and it's not really even dirt. It's coral, and so that can collapse. The Koreans collapsed a mountain. North Korea collapsed a mountain in North Korea by uh, doing repeated underground tests. They collapsed the whole mountain, which some of these things I can't imagine, but they did. There was lots of fallout, and that's when the president of France and Angela Merkel from Germany came to visit Trump to try to talk some sense in him to get the Koreans, because they're setting off the faults. Speaking of faults in the Pacific Rim, watch out New Zealand and some tidal what would you call it, earthquakes and tidal waves on the Pacific Rim, especially up through Russia and down along all the beautiful islands in where Japan is, and especially New Zealand. So we're gonna be suffering. People are going to suffer. Our short-sightedness is going to sink us in the long run, and so beautiful, beautiful coral base of the Everglades is going to disappear. It's going to collapse, and it's going to be, really, we're going to talk about refugees. We're going to have refugees from Louisiana and Florida, and they will continue voting in Republicans that bring in oil money. And what good is it when you don't have a place to live anymore? Then we're going to have refugees all over the place, and the problem gets worse. So that's the way I have to. My next meditation, I'm going to ask my spirit guides to bring something cheery, refreshing, and we have some bright new stars on the horizon with our new Congress and representatives, and it won't be long. So we want to save our planet. That comes first. Short-sighted prophets. It's not, like I said, if you have a house, would you go out and put dynamite under it to see if that dynamite blows up? Is that's what nuclear testing underground is? And the Chinese are going to know that pretty soon too, because they're going to have a big nuclear accident. I couldn't, over and over, seeing this big round crater in the middle of China. Is it a nuclear test gone bad, or is it a meteorite? So, but China is moving ahead of us economically because we're worried about the wall and porn stars and God knows what else. And NRA, we're worried about things that, if we don't get busy, we are becoming a third world country. Drive down the street of where you live. How many, or at least near a city, how many homeless people do you see? And remember, or ask your grandparents, it wasn't like that 40 years ago. You could have a job, you could go to school, have a car, and you could advance. Not anymore. So, we do have some exciting people on the horizon. And as far, I haven't gotten a good take on the presidential candidates. I've tuned into Biden, and either he has a really smart person in his family that is into astrology, and they said, don't do your campaign entry during Mercury retrograde, but in his heart, he has such misgivings. He doesn't want to run. He's worn out. In the last election of 2016, he lost his oldest son to cancer. Previously, when he was much younger with a young family, he lost his first wife and another young son in a car accident. So he's had his share, and he just wants to take what he's got and go for a boat ride in beautiful Delaware. he's had it with this. He's done it all of his life, and he stayed strong when he lost his loved ones, especially his dear son, which was the only remnants of his original family with his wife, so his first wife. So he doesn't want to. He will only enter if he really sees a need, because he's stuck with my country needs me, and he's putting that ahead of his own personal preferences. So I went over some things that a little bit that I said in the last YouTube because of my tripod and equipment. I hope this comes out better. Join me on Psychic Predictions for the World on Facebook. Come and join. Y'all come, and we post a lot of things on Psychic Predictions for the World, and it'd be look ahead. We have beautiful things coming with our beautiful millennials. So until then, stay tuned.